Hello everyone. In many cases we've analyzed before, there have been killers who, despite facing legal punishment, still garnered a large group of fans pleading for their release, often just because of their good looks. Some even married their admirers while serving time in prison, like Corey Swartz, who killed his wife and child for his lover, or Cameron Helen, who drove into and killed a mother and her son. However, in 2020 in Thailand, there was a murderer who didn't fit the conventional standards of attractiveness, yet still amassed a huge following of fans begging for his leniency. He even became an internet sensation and appeared in reality TV music videos. So what exactly happened? Today we'll dive into this case. Northeast Thailand, also known as Isan, is infamous for its harsh climate, barren land, and remote location, making it the poorest region in the country. Situated along the Mekong River, facing Laos, it lies in Mukdahan province. Here, in a small village called Ban Kok Kork in Dong Muang district, near Phu Pha Yan and the town of Mukdahan, people primarily make a living through farming, cultivation, and rubber tapping. At 9:10 a.m. on May 11, 2020, Anaman and his wife Sawatri left for their garden as usual, leaving their 13-year-old daughter and 3-year-old daughter, Nong Champu, home alone. Although no adults were present, this was a small village where everyone knew each other, and strangers rarely visited. The older sister saw Nong Champu playing under a mango tree near the door and felt at ease, continuing to scroll on her phone. A little while later, she accidentally fell asleep, setting off an unavoidable tragedy. A terrifying search. Around 9:50, the older sister woke up and realized her little sister was gone. She frantically searched the house but found no trace of her, then called her parents for help. Upon hearing their youngest daughter was missing, Win and his wife immediately abandoned their work and rushed back to the village. They reported the situation to the village chief, who promptly rallied over 200 villagers to join the search for Nong Champu. Over the next few days, the villagers scoured the village, surrounding forests, gardens, and rubber plantations, but there was no sign of the little girl. Some even turned to shamans for blessings to aid the search, yet still found nothing. The entire village was gripped with worry and fear. Though some villagers reported seeing a suspicious person, they lacked solid evidence since the village had few surveillance cameras. On May 14th, the fourth day since Nong Champu's disappearance, police, villagers, and tracking dogs launched a search on Rafe Mountain near Ban Kok Kork. At 7 p.m., they discovered a pair of green children's sandals on a rock. Shortly after, Nong Champu's naked body was found in bushes 10 meters from the sandals. 36 strands of hair, cut with a knife, were scattered nearby. The pink shorts she wore when she went missing were found 20 meters away from her body, near a 2-meter-high rock. The police then examined the body to determine the cause of Nong Champu's death. Despite many rumors, forensic tests revealed only scratches from branches and rocks, no signs of beating or sexual assault. Thus, the cause of death wasn't violence or rape, but rather malnutrition, dehydration, and starvation. However, this raised a question. Why was Nong Champu's body found in the forest? Although Rafe Mountain is close to Ban Kok Kork, about 2 kilometers away, how could a 3-year-old, who couldn't even climb stairs, make it up such a steep slope on her own? After investigating 384 statements, dismissing 113 false ones, and testing 154 DNA samples, the police concluded that Nong Champu had definitely been taken to the mountain by someone. Though it wasn't explicitly stated in the press conference, during the investigation, the police ruled out villagers with alibis. In the end, all suspicion pointed to one person, Chapol Wifa, Nong Champu's uncle. Chapol Wifa, born on August 17, 1976, was 45 years old at the time and lived with Nong Champu's family in Ban Kok Kork village. He worked as a rubber tapper, was married to the sister of Nong Champu's mother, and had 2 sons. In his youth, he'd worked in direct marketing, selling health products, which made him skilled at communication and persuasion. According to Sawatri and other villagers, Chapol had long shown a special interest in religious activities like magic and prophecies. Since Nong Champu's birth, he had doted on her, even once expressing a desire to adopt her. When she went missing, Rumors swirled in the village that Chapol might have targeted her fate, intending to offer her as a sacrificial victim. Sawatri also began suspecting her brother-in-law harbored ill intentions. However, the police didn't base their case against Chapol on rumors, but on compelling evidence. They determined that Nong Champu disappeared between 9:10 and 9:50 a.m., while her older sister from the Wangsricha family was asleep. According to the Wangsricha couple, Nong Champu was a very shy child who would cry and panic around strangers. Thus, the only person who could have taken her had to be someone familiar from the family. The family had only 12 relatives and 2 friends close enough to fit the profile. After interrogating Nong Champu's relatives and family friends, the police found that all of them had clear alibis. Only Chapol remained without a solid explanation. He claimed that on the morning of the incident, he had an appointment to pick up a Buddhist amulet at Phai Si Temple, and the abbot confirmed he was there at 10:07 a.m. However, Chapol also said he left the rubber plantation at 9:20 a.m., went home to bathe and change, and then headed to the temple. Meanwhile, Nong Champu's disappearance occurred between 9:10 and 9:50 a.m., leading many to believe he had enough time to commit the act. Despite this, all the police had were Chapol's statements, with no concrete evidence to charge him. Still, he remained the sole suspect. Though temporarily released, he lived under a cloud of suspicion. As the investigation continued, Chapol kept a low profile. However, with the prolonged pandemic leaving Thais restless, this mysterious case captured widespread attention. Netizens turned into amateur detectives, and Chapol's name began to gain notoriety. An unexpected turnaround. Initially, Chapol appeared in the media as a grieving relative helping search for Nong Champu on the mountain. When her body was found, he fell to his knees, sobbing uncontrollably. Though some now see his tears as exaggerated, his actions touched many at the time, convincing them he was a loving uncle. This sparked a growing misconception about his status as a suspect, leading people to defend him and insist he was wrongfully accused. Sensing the case's appeal, Thai TV programs quickly invited Chapol to appear. Major news channels aired these shows relentlessly, casting him as a devoted uncle misunderstood by society. With heavy media influence, more people became convinced he was a victim of a mix-up. They praised his polished appearance and composed demeanor, arguing he couldn't possibly commit such a heinous act as murder. It didn't stop there. Some even criticized Nong Champu's mother for her irresponsibility, pointing to inconsistencies in her actions and her decision to cremate Nong Champu's body too soon. The media frenzy continued, turning Chapol's life into a reality show. Seizing the opportunity, he and his wife launched a YouTube channel. Alongside a dedicated fanbase, they posted dozens of daily videos and hosted live streams to share their lives, accepting donations from supporters. Their channel quickly amassed over 220,000 subscribers. Even more astonishingly, Chapol began receiving product endorsement offers and appeared in music videos with famous Thai artists like Chin Darafanal. From being the sole suspect in a murder case, he transformed into an economic boon for the small village of Ban Kok Kork. An almost unbelievable twist. A series of suspicious clues. While Chapol and his wife became internet celebrities raking in substantial earnings, the police didn't give up their search for evidence. They first discovered that Nong Champu's older sister called her parents for help at 10:02 a.m. The Wangsricha couple rushed back to the village but didn't inform anyone about the disappearance. Yet, monks at the temple reported that when Chapol arrived at 10:07 a.m., he immediately mentioned Nong Champu's disappearance. Though he later explained he'd received a call from his wife while driving, the reality was that he and his wife shared one phone, which was with her at the time. She couldn't have called him, and she didn't even know about the disappearance yet. So how did Chapol know in advance, unless he was already aware? The police then reviewed the village's scarce surveillance footage. On the day Nong Champu vanished, Chapol's silver pickup truck was spotted on the road at 10:59 a.m. However, it didn't reappear in the footage until 4:07 p.m., leaving no proof of an alibi during the critical 40-minute window of her disappearance. The story began at 9:20 a.m., when a villager named Pan encountered Chapol on the path from the rubber plantation back home. What struck Pan as odd was that Chapol wasn't his usual self. Normally, when working in the rubber fields, he wore full gear, mosquito repellent, and a protective hat. That day, he wore only simple pants, carried a knife, and strangely, had no repellent or hat. This raised Pan's suspicions. That day, Chapol only tapped 6 rubber trees before abruptly ending his work, as if he'd gone to the plantation just for show. This unusual behavior fueled doubts about his true intentions. Even more telling, Pan later revealed a key detail. Chapol had tried to intimidate her into changing her statement, claiming they'd met at 7 a.m., not 9:20 a.m. as she told the police. These contradictions in his account only deepened the suspicion surrounding him. After piecing together various testimonies, the police uncovered a noteworthy detail. After Chapol left the rubber plantation at 9:20 a.m., he encountered Pan on his way back and took about 10 minutes to reach the temple. If he met the monks at 10:07 a.m., that left a 37-minute gap between leaving the plantation and arriving at the temple with no clear alibi. This led the police to suspect Chapol might have done something shady during that time. However, one of the most critical pieces of evidence came from seemingly minor details often overlooked. During the investigation, the police found 16 strands of hair in Chapol's pickup truck. After thorough analysis with advanced equipment, they discovered that these hairs had cut angles identical to those found near Nong Champu's body. This suggested the hairs were cut at the same time, close to when Nong Champu disappeared. Investigators speculated that Chapol might have believed cutting someone's hair could suppress their spirit, inadvertently bringing those hairs into his truck without realizing it. Beyond the hairs belonging to Nong Champu, the police also found one strand that wasn't hers. DNA testing revealed it belonged to Chapol's wife. This raised suspicions that she accompanied him to the mountain at 4:50 p.m. on the day Nong Champu vanished. They may have altered the scene, removing her clothes and repositioning her body to create a false impression of sexual assault and mislead the police. After reviewing all the evidence, the police concluded that Chapol and his wife were directly involved. They requested arrest warrants for both. On June 1, 2021, over a year after Nong Champu's death, police arrived at Chapol's home at 6:15 a.m. to arrest him. However, he was in Bangkok Cork, preventing an immediate arrest. At 10:30 a.m. that day, Chapol turned himself in at the local Bangkok Cork police station. Still, he insisted he was only cooperating and had no intention of confessing. He maintained, "An innocent person has nothing to fear." He was then transported to Mukdahan by helicopter. Despite his arrest, Chapol refused to admit guilt. The police charged him with negligent homicide, child abduction, and obstructing justice, while his wife faced charges of obstructing justice. A key point in this case is that Chapol wasn't charged with murder. The police explained that the autopsy lacked sufficient evidence to prove murder, only supporting a charge of negligent homicide. Additionally, there was no apparent motive for him to hate Nong Champu or her family. The final verdict. Despite significant public backlash, the court delivered its ruling on December 20, 2023. The court acknowledged that while Nong Champu's body bore multiple injuries, they were only scratches and bruises, not severe enough to cause death. Thus, the Mukdahan court convicted Chapol of 2 crimes: negligent homicide and abduction of a child under 15, sentencing him to 10 years for each, totaling 20 years in prison. As for his wife, insufficient evidence proved she intentionally misled the police, so she was acquitted. When the verdict was announced, many questioned, wasn't a strand of his wife's hair found? How was she acquitted? In reality, DNA technology at the time only identified the hair as belonging to Nong Champu's mother, not conclusively proving it was Chapol's wife's. After the ruling, Chapol immediately requested an appeal and paid a 180,000 baht bail to remain free. Leaving the courthouse, he and his lawyer held a press conference. The lawyer argued that, though the court deemed Chapol the culprit, there wasn't enough evidence to pinpoint who took Nong Champu. Chapol also prepared to compensate her family, including over 1 million baht for funeral expenses. Meanwhile, Chapol garnered support from his fans. During this time, he became a victim in the public eye, with some even arguing he was more pitiful than Nong Champu and her family. After the appeal, the next hearing was postponed, pushing a final ruling further away. Since being released on bail, though barred from leaving Thailand, Chapol has lived freely. He's not only a major shareholder in a cosmetics company but also runs a fan page and YouTube channel with his wife, attracting tens of thousands of followers. Their videos often feature their two sons, sharing family life and hosting live streams to sell products. Though the case has faded from the spotlight and public outrage has subsided, a loyal group of fans remains convinced of Chapol's innocence. Their ongoing media efforts and live streams continue to draw new supporters, polishing his public image. Estimates suggest that their video content and online activities alone generate over 3 million baht annually, a substantial sum. In the end, public opinion shifted, criticizing the media for overhyping the case. Some condemned the singer who invited Chapol into a music video, showing little regard for his status as a suspect in a high-profile case. Meanwhile, netizens thanked the monks and villagers who bravely risked danger to uncover the truth. The community also apologized to Nong Champu's mother for the misunderstandings caused throughout the ordeal. Here, the story seems to conclude. But has it truly ended? Nowadays, Chapol frequently appears on live streams, promoting virtuous deeds and rebuilding his image. Yet, the question lingers. Is he genuinely atoning for past mistakes, or merely using tactics to craft a persona for profit and charity scams? Perhaps only Chapol himself can answer that. Ultimately, a grave societal event was turned into a spectacle on TV and social media, disregarding the victim's family's pain. The suspect became an online celebrity, even profiting from his notoriety. In the common perception of society, Buddhist nuns are often seen as individuals with pure souls, free from worldly desires, and devoted to kindness. However, everything has two sides. Behind the serene appearance of a nun, there may be hidden secrets and ambitions that no one would expect. Today, we will uncover a shocking case in Hong Kong about a Buddhist abbess who spent her mornings at the temple and her nights at bars. But this was just a small part of her hidden life. She used her religious status as a cover to fulfill her unthinkable desires. Nun Shi Jiding, whose real name was Shi Ai Min, was born in 1967 into an ordinary family in Jilin. Her family was not well off. In fact, they struggled financially. Perhaps because of this, from a young age, Min developed an intense desire for wealth. She constantly dreamed of making a fortune, escaping her current life, and achieving so-called financial freedom. However, harsh reality quickly crushed her aspirations. Without a formal education or notable skills, she could only take on temporary jobs to make ends meet after reaching adulthood. Despite her hard work, her earnings were barely enough for basic survival, let alone fulfilling her dream of becoming rich. When she realized that her ambitions could not be realized in her hometown, Min decided to go abroad, hoping to build a new life for herself. In 1993, against her family's wishes, she set off on a journey southward. After moving from place to place, she eventually arrived in Hong Kong. In the 1990s, Hong Kong was at the peak of its film industry and had become an international hub for commerce and tourism due to its unique geographical location and the fusion of Eastern and Western cultures. Coming from a rural background, Min was instantly captivated by the city's dazzling lights and towering skyscrapers. At that moment, she made a silent vow to stay in Hong Kong and realize her dream of wealth. However, while her aspirations were grand, reality was cruel. The vibrant and diverse life of Hong Kong only highlighted the stark contrast between her dreams and her reality as a poor laborer. As an immigrant, she had no way to stay long-term. To settle permanently in Hong Kong, she first needed to obtain legal residency. But without education or special skills, she had no idea how to achieve this goal. After much thought, she came up with a plan: marrying a local man. If she could marry a Hong Kong resident, she would not only stabilize her life in the short term but also, after 7 years, become eligible for permanent residency. To her, this method seemed like a win-win situation. With this plan in mind, Min began searching for a target. By chance, she met a truck driver named Shin Rong. His sincere and honest nature made him the perfect stepping stone for her. However, Rong was already married and had children. Most people would have given up upon learning this, but Min, driven by her own goals, had no regard for his family's happiness. To secure her place in Hong Kong, she used every means possible to seduce Rong. Eventually, under her relentless pursuit, Rong succumbed, and Min successfully married him. However, this was only the first step in her grand plan. After marriage, Min's life did not change significantly. Although she no longer had to worry about basic necessities, she was still far from the luxurious life she had envisioned. Seeing the glamorous lives of Hong Kong's wealthy women only intensified her greed for wealth. Therefore, as soon as she legally obtained permanent residency after 7 years, she immediately divorced Rong. Upon finalizing the divorce, she changed her name to Long En Lai, hoping to attract divine blessings for a rich and prosperous future. However, reality once again disappointed her. By this time, she was already over 30 years old, lacked outstanding beauty, and had no educational background or professional skills. A mere residency permit was not enough to change her fate. To survive, she had to abandon her unrealistic dreams and return to reality, taking up work to support herself. As mentioned earlier, without education or skills, she could not find high-paying jobs and had to settle for low-level labor such as washing dishes, running errands, and doing warehouse work. At times, she even had to take on physically demanding jobs just to get by. This was far from the luxurious life she had once imagined. An insatiable greed. Min refused to accept that she had wasted 7 years of her youth and a marriage only to struggle in poverty. She continued to search for opportunities to change her fate. One day, by chance, she passed by Palin Monastery in Hong Kong and noticed the large crowds of worshippers, many of whom were wealthy and powerful individuals. After making offerings and burning incense, these people would generously donate significant sums to the temple. Seeing this filled Min with resentment. She thought, if I could become a nun at Palin Monastery, my life would be stable. I wouldn't have to worry about food and clothing, and I would receive a steady income every month. More importantly, I would have the opportunity to network with influential figures in society. If they were willing to help me, I would never have to worry about changing my destiny again. With this thought, her heart began to stir. In 2002, she went to Palin Monastery in Hong Kong, shaved her head, and was ordained as a Buddhist nun with the Dharma name Shi Jiding. Her mentor was Master Zhen Hui, the 6th-generation abbot of Palin Monastery. After joining the Buddhist community, Min demonstrated exceptional learning ability and sharp intuition. In front of Master Zhen Hui, she displayed great humility and diligence. By this time, Master Zhen Hui was already 80 years old, and managing such a large monastery was taking a toll on his health. Min quickly noticed this and frequently stayed by his side, inquiring about his well-being and offering to massage his legs. Seeing his disciples' humility, diligence, and kindness, Master Zhen Hui grew increasingly fond of her and began considering her as his successor. However, no one knew that Min's actions were all carefully calculated, part of a grand scheme to secure her place as the future abbess of Palin Monastery and, ultimately, fulfill her dream of wealth. 3 years after joining the monastery, in 2005, Min finally seized the turning point of her life. That year, the abbot of Dinghui Zen Monastery passed away, and Master Zhen Hui recommended his beloved disciple, Min, as the new abbess. At this point, Min had reached the pinnacle of her life and had officially embarked on her path to wealth. Upon arriving at Dinghui Zen Monastery, Min took aggressive measures to expel an elderly monk, accusing him of embezzling temple funds. However, this action was not driven by a genuine concern for the monastery's long-term development, but rather to satisfy her own greed. She strategically placed those who were loyal to her in key positions within the temple, while those who refused to follow her orders were relegated to performing menial labor. In this environment where only trusted individuals were favored, a nun named Miao Hui became Min's closest confidant. Min entrusted her with handling secret matters, particularly the temple's financial affairs. Although Dinghui Zen Monastery did not attract as many pilgrims as Pelin Monastery, it still received annual donations ranging from hundreds of thousands to millions of Hong Kong dollars. These funds were intended to cover the temple's daily expenses, renovations, and ceremonies. However, ever since Min took control of the monastery, most of the donation money ended up in her own pockets. Yet, even this was not enough to satisfy her greed. She wanted to elevate Dinghui Zen Monastery's reputation so that it could attract more donations, allowing her to realize even greater ambitions. 10 years later, in July 2015, an opportunity arose for Min. At that time, a real estate company offered to purchase the land of Dinghui Zen Monastery for an astonishing 100 million Hong Kong dollars. Despite the hefty offer, Min did not appear tempted by greed. She outright rejected their proposal. When this news became public, it immediately garnered widespread attention. Facing such an enormous sum of money, she remained unfazed, and millions of Hong Kong residents began to praise her noble stance. Many even launched donation campaigns to help raise funds for the temple's long-overdue renovations. Min seized upon the attention generated by rejecting the multimillion-dollar deal. Not only did she successfully boost the monastery's reputation, but she also built a positive public image, which resulted in an influx of donations directly into her hands. With financial support from various sectors of society, the donation total eventually reached 6.7 million Hong Kong dollars. To maintain appearances, Min spent only a small portion on minor temple repairs, pocketing the rest. Watching the money accumulate, she found it impossible to restrain her greed. She began indulging in an extravagant and hedonistic lifestyle. Later, she spent 39.5 million Hong Kong dollars to purchase a luxury villa in an affluent neighborhood of Hong Kong. The interior was lavishly decorated, with no fewer than 9 wardrobes filled with designer clothing, shoes, handbags, and expensive jewelry. Even her personal items, such as lingerie, were worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. The number of stockings and wigs she owned was beyond count. From that point on, Min lived a life of indulgence and excess. By day, she played the role of a serene abbess, but by night, she donned black lingerie, put on a wig, and immersed herself in Hong Kong's nightlife. She became a generous patron of restaurants and shopping centers, freely spending tens of thousands of dollars on luxury lingerie and $8,000 skincare products. To her, money was never a concern. When dining at restaurants, she ordered only the most expensive dishes, such as sashimi and other delicacies. At this point, there was nothing about her that resembled a Buddhist nun. But if you think this was the peak of her corruption, you'd be mistaken. In reality, Min's scandalous life had only just begun. Even more astonishing, despite being a nun, she had both lovers and 2 husbands. In 2006, Min registered a marriage with a businessman who had previously been a monk in mainland China. After their marriage, she sponsored his immigration to Hong Kong, allowing him to continue his monastic practice there. 6 years later, after he obtained legal residency, they divorced. That same year, the abbess registered another marriage with a different monk using the exact same method. By arranging fake marriages to sponsor monks from mainland China to Hong Kong, Min profited in multiple ways. She charged them hefty fees and also collected commissions when placing these monks in temples. The unraveling of her crimes. However, as the saying goes, paper cannot wrap fire. Min's greed and reckless indulgence eventually led to her downfall. With widespread media coverage, she suddenly became famous. This newfound status allowed her to connect with influential figures in society, including a well-known actress named Angela Ong Ching-Ching, who once played the role of Little Dragon Girl in The Return of the Condor Heroes. After her husband's passing, Angela frequently visited Dinghui Zen Monastery for meditation and prayers. As the abbess, Min would often console Angela when she appeared sorrowful. In Min's eyes, befriending someone as influential as Angela could provide her with even greater opportunities to expand her connections and wealth. However, what she didn't realize was that this greedy decision would eventually lead to her downfall. Initially, Angela genuinely believed that Min was a devoted Buddhist. When she noticed that Dinghui Zen Monastery was in a state of disrepair, She voluntarily donated 100,000 Hong Kong dollars and even launched an online fundraiser, helping the monastery collect more than 1.3 million Hong Kong dollars. This delighted Min, who secretly felt she had found a valuable benefactor. To express her gratitude, Min invited Angela to become a member of the monastery's board of trustees. In reality, Min's true intention was to use Angela's status to strengthen their connection. However, Angela was a highly observant individual. She soon realized that 6 months had passed since the donation drive, yet the monastery's facilities had seen little to no improvement. Moreover, reports from volunteers raised further suspicions. Despite being the abbess, Min rarely led prayer sessions and was frequently seen being chauffeured in luxury cars. On multiple occasions, volunteers spotted her shopping for high-end designer brands alongside other individuals. At restaurants, she ordered extravagant meals, and her familiarity with the menu suggested she was a regular patron. At first, Angela, as a board member, chose to ignore these concerns. But as complaints grew, she decided to investigate further. However, this investigation led to shocking discoveries. Angela found that the temple's financial records did not add up. The previous donation balance had exceeded $6 million, yet now only around $700,000 remained. Suspicious about the missing funds, Angela hired a private investigator to track where the money had gone. The findings left everyone in disbelief. She could hardly fathom how a supposedly humble abbess owned a multimillion-dollar luxury villa. Every item she used was from high-end brands. Min's phones and computers were always the latest, most expensive models. Instead of reciting scriptures, she frequently took her disciples out to lavish restaurants, shopping sprees, and entertainment venues. Inside Min's meditation room, there was an extensive collection of dresses, leather shoes, waist-shaping lingerie, cosmetics, and jewelry. Even more outrageous, the 2 large dogs she kept in her villa enjoyed 24-hour air conditioning, with their monthly food expenses reaching tens of thousands of dollars. The most astonishing revelation was that this so-called nun had been married twice, to Buddhist monks. Even while legally married, she engaged in another marriage arrangement. On top of that, the temple's financial records were an absolute mess. Approximately $40 million from donations and offerings had been siphoned off by Min to fund her extravagant lifestyle. Her greed and indulgence infuriated Angela, who decided to publicly expose the results of her investigation. As waves of evidence surfaced, the true face of Shi Jiding, also known as Min Ai Min, was completely unmasked. On October 14, 2015, Min, who was then 47 years old, was taken into custody by the Hong Kong Immigration Department for investigation. Along with her, her disciple Miao Hui, her current husband Gao Yugua, and a foreign domestic helper were also detained. Min was eventually charged with embezzlement of temple funds, large-scale financial fraud, and conspiring with others in illegal residency activities. After posting bail, Min was released while awaiting trial, but details about her sentencing were never widely reported in the media. All her luxury properties and vehicles were auctioned off, with the proceeds returned to the temple. Overnight, her extravagant dreams crumbled, leaving her with nothing but a ruined reputation. In the end, she could not escape the consequences of greed. Those who fail to control their desires will inevitably be consumed by them, sinking into a bottomless abyss of insatiable wants from which they can never rise again. Buddhism teaches that the root of all suffering in life comes from 3 things: greed, anger, and ignorance. Among them, greed stands above all. It is greed that breeds hatred, leading people into darkness, causing them to commit evil deeds. Min Ai Min's insatiable greed led her to commit unforgivable crimes. Instead of striving for a better life through honesty and hard work, she chose to deceive innocent believers, exploiting their faith to indulge in an extravagant and corrupt existence. This case also sheds light on the hidden darkness lurking within certain temples. Min Ai Min was exposed, but she may not be the only one. There could be many other temples facing similar issues that remain undiscovered. So, what do you think about this?